So in this video, I want to talk a little bit about my personal budgeting routine or my personal payday routine of how I actually treat my money on a day-to-day basis or on a monthly basis in order to ensure that I'm on the fastest route to financial freedom for my family. And I got this idea from watching a whole bunch of other YouTube videos, so there's obviously a lot of differing opinions on this topic. However, I do want to go over my own personal situation of what my payday routine is, what steps I take with my money once it deposits in my bank account, and how you can use my situation in order to get some inspiration to make your situation a little bit more efficient. Now, this video isn't to say that my way is the perfect way, because it absolutely isn't. I do what I feel the most comfortable with. I do what my family feels the most secure with, and also I do what I feel will get me from point A to point B as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So if you think you're going to find any kind of value in this video, then it'll do me a huge favor if you just tap that like button and also subscribe if you want to see more content like this. However, well before money even deposits into my bank account, if you have a job that has inconsistent pay, then the first thing that you would do, or the first thing that I do, is try to calculate my net income or my take-home pay well before the day even comes that it's supposed to be in my account. I think that if you try to wait until the day of or a couple of days before you get the money into your account, it doesn't really give you enough time to properly plan out your month or properly plan out your 2 weeks if you're not really meticulous about knowing how much money you make. And this only applies, as I said, to people who have inconsistent income. Because I make money through self-employment and I have a salary job, my income tends to fluctuate up, but I know from my salary job that the base level will always be the same, because as long as I do my job, I'll get paid every 2 weeks. And when you're calculating your net income, some things that you want to take into account is how much taxes that you need to save if you're self-employed. If you work on an hourly basis, how many hours you work that week versus other weeks. Also, if you have any deductions that may be coming out of your check. All of these things you want to take into account so that when you get ready to budget, you are left with a very realistic number that I would even say is a little bit lower than the number that you're actually going to get. It is much better to budget based on a lower amount of income that you may receive than budgeting based on a higher amount of income that you don't get deposited, and now you're scrambling trying to make the numbers work. And then once you calculate your take-home pay, what I do in my personal situation as a payday routine is I create an Excel spreadsheet to track my spending throughout the month. And how I do this is that I use previous month spending averages in order to roll that over to the present month, so I can see about how much money I would spend in categories that may vary from month to month. Things like my mortgage payment don't vary. Things like my power bill, my Wi-Fi, my phone plan don't vary. However, some things that may vary is how much money we may spend or we may budget for eating out, or how much money our grocery bill will be. And even in some cases, if you're not on a fixed budget billing plan, your power bill may fluctuate seasonally, as in the cold months you may be using more heat that may be more expensive in your area, or in the summer months you may be using more AC. Depending on what your personal situation is, by looking back on what you spent in previous months, you can get a pretty good idea of what you will spend in the next month if you are fairly consistent. Now, for me personally, I've been doing this for the past 3 or 4 years, so if I want to know how much money I would spend in June of 2023, I can look back at June of 2022 and June of 2021 to see what the average of those months are and give me a pretty good estimate of what the next month would be. And then what my next step after this would be is to set realistic goals about things that I want to achieve in the coming month. It could be anything from a savings goal, a debt payment goal, or even a goal not to eat out or not to spend as much money eating out. But the idea is that you're giving yourself something in the month to work towards. And because I am a very goal-driven person, by giving myself little financial goals that I can achieve throughout the month, it keeps me motivated in order to stay on track budgeting financially. I think that if I was just to create a budget and try to follow that budget without any sort of gameplay within the budget, I would probably get pretty bored pretty quickly of doing that. However, in my case, I don't know, because I've been making YouTube videos on this same topic for 3 years, so maybe not. But I do know is that when I have goals that I am working towards, it does make the whole process a lot more exciting. It makes it a lot more enjoyable in order for me to close out one month knowing that I've achieved most, if not all, of my goals, and open up the next month with a fresh list of goals that has me excited and ready to get to work. But the next thing that you want to do is probably the most fundamental and probably the most important thing that you want to do once you get paid in order to budget for financial freedom, is to actually create your budget plan. And because a lot of situations vary, I think that a good rule of thumb when you're creating your budget plan is to go by the 50-30-20 rule. And all the 50-30-20 rule states is that 50% of your income goes towards needs, meaning that things that you need to live every single day, like paying your rent or paying your mortgage, paying your auto loan so your car doesn't get repoed, keeping your lights and water on. 50% of your income in total should generally have a place in your budget to go towards needs. And if when you start to track your expenses, you know that way more than your expenses is going towards needs, way more than 50%, then that may be a time to reevaluate whether or not you are overextending yourself financially and getting into too many payments to where you can't actually be financially healthy. And then once you have that 50% towards needs, 30% of your budget should go towards wants. So this can be things like eating out, going to fancy restaurants, or even just a miscellaneous spending budget. You can, generally speaking, have 30% of your money go towards that comfortably and still be okay financially. And lastly, what you should strive for in the 50-30-20 rule is that 20% of your take-home pay should go towards saving or investing for your future. Now this is pretty simple, but having 20% of your take-home pay go towards your future will start to allow you to build a sizable nest egg if you stay consistent and you don't dip into these savings or investing whenever the temptation rises to spend a little bit of money. And then after you take all of these steps, or once I take all of these steps, what I do is that I go through the months trying to achieve all of my savings goals, all of my debt payments goals, all of my financial goals in general. And then at the end of the month, when the next month is ready to start, I go back and review what I could have done better in the previous month. A lot of the times, hindsight paints a much better picture and is a much better teacher than you are when you're planning the next month. By looking back and seeing where some holes in your budget start to grow, where you start to break down financially and gave into some temptations, you can then step back and ask yourself if that experience or if that thing that you bought was really worth it, if it was really worth taking a hit to your financial future in order to get that gadget or whatever you bought in that moment of weakness. And by submerging yourself into that feeling in hindsight, you start to lose that high that you felt when you first bought the item, and you start to see a little tinkle of buyer's remorse that will make you even less likely in the future to make that same mistake again. So I am always a proponent of looking back on things that you felt like you did wrong in the past in order to use that as a lesson to better yourself in the future. Also, what you can do is that instead of making a mistake yourself, you can start to look up people on YouTube who have bought some of the things that you're planning on buying and seeing whether or not that purchase, once it's out of the shiny bright lights in the store, is actually something that you need in your life. So I hope I was able to provide some kind of value for you in this video. If you made it all the way into the end of this video, then you might as well go ahead and drop a like on it. And if you want to hear me talk about more topics about money, then hit that subscribe button as well. And as I always say, if you sign up to the public app, they'll give you a free stock valued anywhere from $300 to $300. All you gotta do is click that link in the description and they'll take you over there and you will get a free stock on me as a courtesy from me to you. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one, guys.